Hello, hello, hello. There is an echo. Checking, checking, checking. Okay. Okay. Taking the next shot. We seem to be having difficulties today, so sorry about that. You know, that minute when everything seems ready for your live, and then it all starts to come down like the Jenga building blocks. You think everything is right, and you've been waiting the moment, and then something's wrong with the slides, the tech, the plan, the da da da, and you checked all of the things, and it just keeps happening. So bear with me. I am trying to load something that I prepared an amazing presentation for today. And I am going to try one more time. I appreciate everyone's patience as this uh, delay is something, right? A lot of you who are there and like you think of like the universe and they say it's like a detour to a different destination. Well, let's see what happens with this detour and today's presentation. Um, what will be, in the next few minutes, what we might do here is that um, why don't we all just write in the chat if you are listening live or in the replay and share a little bit about what's going on in your world and share what is happening. Um, this morning when I woke up, I thought it was the middle of the day and it was like 3 a.m. It was like the most weirdest thing. Last night, I ended up deciding to go to sleep like super, super early. And it was really, really interesting because, you know, it was like after 8. And I guess that's why I woke up at 3 a.m. because it was several hours later. Um, Okay, so maybe what we're going to do is my assistant is on. Shana, why don't you load the deck and then you'll just flip through the slide and we're going to do it that way through today. Oh, here it is. Awesome. Okay, we did it, right? It always happens. It's like everything is set and then it's like the Jenga, it all bogs down. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on. I'm Margo Masri, your Heartfelt CFO. I am so excited to share today's presentation with you and talk about reactive accounting to strategic control and helping you develop a framework for your business and all of the in between. And if you are new here to my channel, welcome. If you are here and you're like, Margo, who the heck are you? Why should I listen to you? I'm going to go into a little bit about me and talk about my path and see and share all of the different things, how I always loved working with real estate investors and owners. It has been a true passion for me since probably I was like 11 years old. In my neighborhood, there was like a lot of buildings that were coming down. And I always thought it was really interesting that they were taking it down. But I was like, ah, those mean men. But what ended up happening was I saw that they were building really, really nice buildings. And it really started to build on me in terms of like what the creation was with building and different places for people to live. And my field and my passion has been through accounting, through, making being business owners, making confident decisions, building structure that supports growth, and really taking the edge around the jargon of accounting and help you create self-trust. And even when things are feeling like they're all in the craziness, helping you be a decision maker beyond your wildest dreams. And what's the reality? The reality is a lot of us here have a lot of different entities, a lot of different properties, and there's always moving parts, right? So the entities itself, the structures, the business, all of these things already have so much going on. Revenue is coming in, but there's not clarity on what's happening. Financial decisions are not constant. Visibility does not always match complexity. So when revenue is coming in and it's not consistent, lots of times there's funneling happening between the entities from one to the next. And what I see happening is a lot of our real estate professionals is that they're not taking salaries so that they can do the next investment. So it's really not being funded the way it needs to. It's almost like that we're tolerating and we're compromising as owners. So the visibility is not matching the complexity of really what's happening. So what should be happening? What's the reality? Decisions guided by clear data, full visibility and access to cash flow, really deciding on things and reviewing the financials so that you can actually see what's happening. So how do you get here? This all sounds really, really great. It all comes down into what is the architecture of our business. You may have heard me talk about this before. You may be hearing me again today and you're like, what is this architecture? It's designing your entities. It's designing how money will move from entity to entity. It's working with your business partners and making sure that you're in alignment with what you agreed. We're not just like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping and praying on the money. We're actually thinking about it before and creating a process and a system and a structure. So the financials exist. Cash flow feels clearer across the entities. Tax exposure is now predictable, and reports, they drive decisions. So you could be in a space where it's not driving decision, that their tax exposure is not predictable. So depending on where you're at, you could be in different places around this. So what's the actual problem? It comes down into what I call the core foundations of the bookkeeping issue. It's not the tax filing issue. The clarity in the structure is the problem, and not this, and there's no system connected to everything. So we're working with a client now where it was like so crystal clear that the tax return was terribly wrong, but the tax return was wrong because naturally the bookkeeping was wrong. So the owner ended up going to the previous tax firm and they were like, hey, LMNOP, like there was like a lot of things wrong. LMNOP, like through Z plus. And across 6 different entities, you could imagine the level of how this operated. And it was actually multiple years where the funneling was happening. Now, the tax preparer was like, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. I prepared the tax return. This is according to the code and da, 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 da. But it was actually the bookkeeping and the bookkeeping issue and not a tax filing issue. So what happens? Multiple entities are fragmented. Reporting isn't done. Tax cash flow and decisions are disconnected. No one owns the full financial picture. So what does this create? Distrust. You don't trust your numbers. Everything feels messy and behind the scenes, and decisions rely on instinct and instead of data. So, like you're thinking something should happen instead of the actual data and the raw numbers that are actually there that should be guiding you. And I'll tell you a story. Last year, I worked with a partnership, and within the first call, I told the partners, I was just like, I think you really need more legal help than it is accounting help. That even if you know your numbers, it doesn't mean you're going to get the clarity that you're looking for and the money back, because the trust was so far broken and going backwards is just not going to happen. He wanted to move forward anyway, so we did. And he was like, you're right, I'm not getting the clarity. He goes, but I also saw where I was misaligned and out of system, that he can now make better decisions for himself, who he's a partner with, what he wants to be a partner with, and so on. So sometimes it's not always about the money. It's also the alignment within us of where we're going. So why most attempts fail? Focus on reports before clarity, focus on growth before structure, tools without fixing the foundation, and this is why control never happens, right? If you build a wall, you need all the inner parts of the wall before you actually could close the wall. So it's the same thing with money and taxes. So what's the shift? Moving from reactive books, it requires a strategic sequence. And this is the work that I do. And this is the bigger platform of where of happening now in the industry of moving from reactive accounting to proactive. And what does that actually even mean? Instead of doing things at the year end, we're working on things throughout the year so that you have your 12 steps, 12 months to an accurate tax return. And we now have a place to work from so that we can make decisions. So it's the framework behind the shift. First, clarity. This is where reactive business actually starts. Clean and reconciling across the entities, accurate versus unclear identifications of the expenses and things. And what does this do? We now have clearer outcomes, ability to make decisions, reduce animosity, uncertainty, and clear numbers. Until we get the clarity, we can't go to the next part, the structure. And the structure, we want to lower our tax exposure, have clear financial movement, have strong foundations for growth. But we can't have that if we're not clear on the clarity, having the numbers, being able to make decisions so that we can have our structure, our foundation, right? A house has a foundation, and have a cash flow system and all of the things. Strategy. Most of the time, my calls start that they're wanting to start with strategy, better investment, faster decisions, and controlled growth. But what happens is that without tracking performance, supporting the higher level decisions, we can't get to there. So the other two phases have to happen so that the strategy really kicks in and dials in the profit. Expansion. It's the only way to control things. Advanced tax strategy loopholes, wealth protection, long-term planning, so that there's stable ability to happen and the growth happens on its own. So what's the reality check from here? Most businesses are stuck and numbers exist, but they're not fully reliable. Systems are partially built, but decisions require extra effort. Ever wonder why you feel like you're doing all of the things, but you still need 65,000 things to get there? That's what this is. We skip the stability factor. We skip the structure of the foundation, and we're trying to skip to the expansion before step phase one and phase two. Okay, so let's go back into the phases. Clarity is when we kind of figure out all of the nooks and crannies of what's going on. We then go into the structure where we get to lower the exposure, clear financial movement, and then the foundation for growth. Strategy, we get to increase our growth, faster decisions, and really pick up the pace of things. Track performance, fund dashboards, and all of these fun things. Now the expansion, this is where it's rough because clients lots of times are in the expansion already and they really don't have parts 1, 2, and 3. And I backpedal clients towards 1, 2, and 3 because or else your expansion is unstable. And I see this time and time again when the expansion is unstable, what ends up happening is that we regress and lose money. But on paper and on video and on socials, it looks like we were moving forward, but we're really struggling behind. So what are the consequences? Increasing risks. You can't skip steps. That's really the thing. And strategy becomes guesswork, and we want to stop doing that. So how does this get implemented? There's two ways to build this. The first path is financial clarity and structure, clean, reliable finances, proactive planning, clear financial decisions. This is where most businesses need to start and will start. Because without the clear financials, without the visibility, without the proactive planning, you're not going to be able to have that clear pathway in between the four parts to the framework. We also have a different path that's called the embedded CFO partnership. So this is a little bit more making it where decisions become the focus. And you only could have the CFO partnership if you have all the layers intact, but that's part of the relationship to get there. forecasting scenario, deal and investment analysis, ongoing financial leadership, so that there's never a strategic decision that's left behind. And it all comes along the way. I'm actually excited to offer another option where I haven't offered this in a really long time. I think it's been a good few years now, where I renamed this, calling it the Gold Crown CFO Partnership. I haven't done this just pure CFO in probably 5 years. I really elevated and grown the practice around accounting and tax and all of the things. And a few legacy clients have talked about this with me. And I've also been mentored by a lot of my advisors lately, and really looking into my value of where I'm the most, and where I'm excited to share this. And this is only going to be for a select few, where this is not bookkeeping and accounting. It's none of that. This is literally just involvement in financial decisions, oversight across the entities, forward-looking strategy and planning, and integrated financial leadership. We can talk about this more, but this is exclusively just CFO. Lots of times my clients have their other parts to this already intact, so this can be on top and work in tandem with it. So I'm really excited with that. So where do you begin after all of this? Let's get to that. Why not start with a self-assessment? Do you fully trust your numbers? Can you clearly see your cash flow for the next 90 days? Maybe the next 60 days? Are my financials really helping me make decisions? Any no points to a gap. And that's okay, because that's why we're here. If you don't have control over your numbers and your decisions, and you do not have control over your decisions. So I'm really excited to actually really fully align on 3 different paths from here at this point, no matter where you are. You might be ready to go into a full-blown call where we get to talk about this in depth, and this is going to be your best option number 3, where we walk through the business, and there's a high-level discussion. If you want to assess where you are, in addition to the questions we talked about today, which is really, really important, I would encourage you to take this assessment, number 2. Now, lots of times clients are already ready to dive in, and this one-on-one is a deep dive into the financials where we actually get ready. So when you do book that, the financial clarity session, this one you would be getting emailed before. You would probably just get like a little bit of a 15-minute orientation before that too, so that we can have the proper call and dive into your questions. I have a lot of legacy clients in situations where people are already in the middle of things and you may not be sure of the path. So I invite you to explore this. I look forward to seeing you on them. I cannot wait for you to have this as well and be able to take that next step so that we can make those deals happen. Look into the financials. If you're looking to buy, sell, all of the things, grow, all of the in between, I invite you to explore. And I also wonder, like, when you're thinking of this and when you're hearing this, let me know around the comments here. It's like, hey, this is happening, that's happening. But if you have the smallest inclination, let's jump onto the call. And there's so much fun that we can have with this. And I look forward to welcoming you together, where I can have the opportunity to grow with you further and take this to a whole new level. This proactive planning from reactive to proactive. I've never been more excited in my life, to be honest, to finally have this full framework together for you. And I really am excited to see who joins us, who joins the team within HCT and helping you. Thank you so much for listening today. I cannot wait to have you on the call, and talk soon. And feel free to send your questions.